Welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
This is Lisa.
And this is Jessica, and we're here with Syosset Library, and we're going to
Turn the page.
And we're sitting with
Marjorie Gottlieb Wolfe.
Very nice. Thank you for joining us today, Marjorie. So today we are going to talk to you about
The Catskills.
Excellent. Very nice. So Lisa, you, as soon as you saw that this was happening, you jumped into this interview. Would you like to put a little personal spin on it?
Yes. So back in the early to mid 60s, my parents met at the Tamarack, and then they got married, and then they had their honeymoon at the Nevele. And then we went back every single year in February because that's when their anniversary was for that 1 week in, President's Week or whatever. And we went to the Concord, and one time we went to the Stevensville. That wasn't so great, but whatever. And then years later, we went back to the Tamarack in the late 80s, and it was right before they closed down, and it was not in great condition. It was kind of disappointing to them, but yes, it's a very big part of my background.
And when I was much younger, the first place we went to in the Catskills was Kutcher's.
Sure.
Yeah, I was so young, but I remember it was snowing, and
Yes.
we rented snowmobiles, and it was very exciting. And I'm not a snow person, so for me to say that it was very exciting, it must have been the best snowmobile ride ever. And then we went to the Nevele.
Right.
Which is 11 spelled backwards. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a little history, a little mythology behind that.
I don't know what it is, but I
have heard that it's 11.
expression.
That it's 11 spelled
Yes,
backwards.
absolutely.
I've heard that either 11 people founded it, or I'm gonna fact check this, and I'm gonna come back to it a little bit later. But yes, the Nevele was my second place, and that was cool because I think I was about 8 at the time, and they had like a children's lounge, and my
Right.
cousins and I felt like we were big shots going to the arcade by ourselves because at the time this was what you did.
Well, I also went with my parents. We went to the Concord, the Nevele, and Grossinger's.
Grossingers, yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Because Sullivan and Ulster counties, they had at that time 500 hotels.
Wow.
They had bungalow colonies.
My grandparents actually
Right.
stayed at one of those, so yes, I'm familiar.
Just like Dirty Dancing.
Yes, they had cuchulanes, and of course things have totally changed.
Yes.
I read a real estate article in The Forward. The Forward, by the way, is now a magazine.
Oh, it used to
be
It's not even a newspaper.
I was gonna
It's
say,
a
it used to be a
wonderful
newspaper.
monthly magazine, and I
Okay.
brought it to show.
Cool.
If you read the real estate ads, they say to you in the ad that they're walking distance to a village, to a house of worship, and to a mikveh. All right, a mikveh. It's the ritual bathhouse that Jews go to.
Right.
And if you see an ad for a house, they'll tell you how close they are to the mikveh. So that's telling you the nature of the people that live there today.
Right.
Very, very orthodox. They have 11 or 12 mikvahs in one area.
Wow.
And last year, they were building a brand new one, and it was vandalized.
Oh.
There are problems in the area for the non-Orthodox and the Orthodox. They also have a brand new casino that's
where
advertised on TV right now.
Yes, I've seen it. That's where the Concord was, right?
Where the Concord was is exactly, I'm just
And as I'm looking, I'm trying to find the exact story behind the Nevele.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So we had many comedians who went there. One who lived near me was Sam Levinson. I don't know if you're familiar.
I've definitely
heard
heard the name.
Yes,
yeah.
me too.
All right.
Yes.
He's no longer alive. He was a school teacher. He taught Spanish in one of the Brooklyn high schools. And whenever I give the talk to somebody that said, "Oh, I had Mr. Levinson," so he goes. Besides teaching, he goes to the mountains and he starts to give his humorous talks. He is such a success that he leaves teaching and it becomes his full-time occupation. Anyone, I would say, 70 and older knows
Sam.
exactly who he is. It
Right.
was homespun humor, clean as could be. A typical story. Is there I spend a little more on him?
Absolutely.
All
Go
right.
ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So, like I say, very clean. So he tells the story where his wife has a baby, and they bring the baby home, and the child is screaming. The mother-in-law lives in the same apartment. She's upstairs. The baby just continues to scream. The mother is having a conniption, a fit. So she yells. Sam Levinson and his wife are reading Dr. Spock. Dr. Spock says, "Let the child scream for 12 and a half minutes." So Grandma calls down and she says, "Put down the book and pick up the baby." You know? Then he tells a story when he's getting married. He can only either buy a car or get married. He can't do both. So he gets married to a very naive young girl. And where do they honeymoon? In Manhattan, in a hotel.
Right.
He came from a poor family, a lot of kids. He was never in a hotel. And the girl is even more naive than him. So they check into a lovely hotel in the city, and they open the door, and there's 2 double beds. This was before you had Queen and King.
Right.
2 double beds.
Almost like in the television series, before you could show a married couple.
Right?
That was
that
standard.
Was
that's a whole
they never
other
slept
thing.
together.
No,
Lucille Ball.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
in the later seasons, they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, the beginning.
But in the beginning, no.
So they walk into this hotel room, and Sammy says, "Oh my God, is this gorgeous?" And his young wife starts to cry. He says to her, "I don't understand. Why are you crying? Isn't the room beautiful?" And she says, "Well, I thought we were going to be alone." I mean,
Okay, yeah.
this is
yeah.
to show you how naive
Yeah.
this
wow,
girl
okay,
was. So
yeah.
he and other comedians. Then you had bellhops. They were the first impression, the first person you met when you came into the hotel, and they had to be dressed just so. Wilt Chamberlain, the basketball.
Very,
Yes.
very tall.
All right?
Yes.
Very tall.
Yes.
He worked as a bellhop.
Wow.
All right. He got $2 an hour. But
Plus
he
tips.
made extra money. What did he do? He stood outside of the hotel. It was Kutcher's.
Oh,
He stood
okay.
outside and he lifted the luggage through the window on the second story.
Wow.
And that's how we got more tips.
Wow. Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
And of course it was called the Borscht Belt.
Yes, which is funny. Just a little story about that. I was recently texting a friend of mine, and she was visiting an artist colony area up near the Catskills, and I said, I used to go to the Borscht Belt, and she was unfamiliar because she with the term.
All right.
And she thought that it was. She was like, "Oh, is that autocorrect? That's a great autocorrect." I was like, "No, it was actually called that." And I sent her an article about it, and she was just like, "Oh, wow, yeah." So explain to us what the Borscht Belt was.
Because, like in Grossinger's, they would say that 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, they served borscht.
And I actually didn't know that. I thought it was just called that because, of the backgrounds of the people who would go.
Well, they were Jewish.
They were Jewish, yes, but I didn't know that Borscht was promised 52. I mean, there's
but the name was fine,
right,
because it was also called Derma Road.
Oh, okay.
Stuffed Derma.
Oh, stuffed
That
Derma.
was
See, that one I'd never
that
heard
was
before.
another food
Yes.
that
Okay.
was popular
Yeah.
with the Jewish people. So,
Yes.
so they used Derma Road.
But Borscht Belt stuck.
Borscht Belt.
Yes.
And the Jewish Alps.
Yes,
That I've heard.
Those
I've heard
three
the Jewish
terms.
Alps.
Yes, the Jewish Alps.
And now you would think that maybe that was offensive, but it wasn't, because when you think today, we have Miami's Little Havana.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have in Brooklyn, the Russian area, Little Odessa.
Yes, I've heard
Yes.
In
of
Brooklyn,
I have too.
where all the Russians are,
Yeah,
they call it
yeah.
Little Odessa.
Yeah.
So you have Chinatown, you have Little Italy. The term really was not offensive.
Right.
Um,
I mean, it was, there was certainly, something, I guess, comfortable, liberating about going to a place and being immersed with people who, understood, who were of a similar background.
right.
And it was a huge vacation spot, and it birthed a lot of careers.
Most of your older comedians,
Yeah,
they built their career there.
right.
Because Friday night and Saturday night were the big theater nights. Every
Right.
hotel had an enormous showroom.
Yes.
Sunday already, the men were going home.
Right.
Yes.
The women stayed, so the men went home to go to work. So Friday and Saturday night they had top comedians, and some of them went to 3 hotels in one night.
Oh, wow.
They did the early show here. They drove to the next hotel for 10 o'clock, and then another one for midnight, and they could do 3 in one night.
That's incredible. There was actually a movie, I think, with Billy Crystal called Mr. Saturday Night
Yes.
about comedians
Yeah, absolutely.
in the Jewish comedians that came out of the Borscht Belt. And yeah.
And many people know about the bungalow colonies. I grew up in Rockaway Beach.
Okay.
I did not live in the bungalows. I lived there all year around. But the bungalows were similar.
Right.
And I actually called one bungalow colony that's in existence now. And I got the owner, who's the son of the original owner.
Okay.
The original owner's gone. And he described the bungalows. He says 100 units. They range from 4,000 to 7,000 for the season.
Huh.
But he said to me, I don't think you want the 4,000. So my guess is that bungalow really, nothing was done to it.
Right.
To get something decent,
Yeah.
we're talking $7,000 for 2 months now.
Oh, wow.
2 months. In addition, they have a camp. Another $3,700 for the camp.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
so it's not cheap now.
No.
So he says that we now have grandparents who are bringing their children and grandchildren there, and they can store their whatever they want in there for the rest of the season. They don't have to carry it back and forth. So
very
there
convenient.
are many bungalows still in existence.
And I remember years ago visiting my grandparents up in a bungalow. And does this sound Mars bungalow? Was that a bungalow?
Morris or
Mars.
Mars?
Mars.
I don't know. There were so many. It's not familiar to me.
I was trying to look it up the other day, and I'm wondering if somehow it was called something else, and in my mind,
You might have renamed it.
I might have renamed it. Just like, I looked up the Nevele. So yes, the lore is that it is 11 spelled backwards after 11 school teachers that found the area.
That sounds familiar. But you also had something interesting. You had a bungalow colony crasher.
What?
All right?
Okay.
All right, so you're renting a bungalow.
Okay.
And the owner says to you, listen, You're just a half a mile from the Concord, the Nevele, whatever
Right,
hotel.
right.
So you can use their entertainment. No, you can't go in their pool.
Okay.
So what you would do is, whenever the show would start, you would walk over to the hotel. Now, they didn't know who you were. They had 1,000 people.
Yeah.
One of the owners, someone from the family would stand at the door to make sure you were a resident, that you were not from the bungalow colony sneaking in. But there was a giveaway. The giveaway was you had a flashlight.
Oh, okay.
If you had a flashlight and they looked for it,
Right.
then we know
Yeah.
you're not living here.
Yeah, because you need to
Yeah.
find your way
got-
back.
You don't need a flashlight to get back to your room.
No.
But you do need to get back to your bungalow colony.
And I would imagine that flashlights were not compact back then.
No.
They were
Well,
probably-
whatever it was,
Yeah.
whatever it was,
They were
They
easy to spot.
they could.
Yeah.
And of course, humor. Some of the stories, they're so good. I'll just share one.
Share as many as you would like.
So this woman is, she's leaving Grossinger's. And it's Sunday afternoon, and there's a long, long line to check out. So she's waiting online, and the manager says to her, Mrs. Goldberg, listen, while you're standing here, why don't you do a little exercise? Then you can go home and you can tell all your friends, all right, that you played Simon Says. And we'll get into that. I'm going to play Simon Says with the audience
Oh.
before my talk.
Okay.
I'm going to have a little time there.
Okay.
So why don't you do a little exercise so when you go home you can tell your friends, not only did you play Simon Says, you exercised. Almost really getting PO'd. She was a little zaftig, a little heavy, and she really wasn't into exercising. So to get him off her case, she says, all right. So he says to her, now I want you to bend over and I want you to carefully open up your luggage and I want you to remove the bath towels that you took. You know, she checked out, right? The maid took one look and she saw that all the bath towels are gone. So she relays the message to the office and
that's
get the
cute.
towels back.
Yeah.
Now, my mother took the towels. We went to Grossinger's. My maiden name was Gottlieb. We had a G, right?
Right.
So she
Oh,
took
yeah.
a couple of G's home
perfect.
and she hung it in the bathroom. Now, she rationalized by saying, look, all year I look at this G Grossinger's. It makes me remember to go back next year.
Okay. So it's
So,
advertising.
Exactly. I was going to say, it's advertising.
A return on their
advertising,
investment.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, that's funny.
You want another one?
Sure, go ahead.
So there's this Orthodox rabbi, and he's sitting around the pool, and it's at the Concord Hotel. And the rabbi hears a fellow scream, "Help! Save me! I'm drowning! I'm the father of 15 children!" So the lifeguard, he dives in the pool, and he shouts, "Okay, mister, I'll save you." And he says, "But you sure picked a fine time to brag." You know, they're so clean.
Yes, clean.
That's yeah.
They're clean.
That's good.
They're clean and they're cute.
They're
Yes,
clean
they,
and they're cute.
Yeah, they are.
Then you have someone, you had Myron Cohn, who was really big there. And one of the most famous jokes, and most of the audience is going to know this particular one, he was at the Swan Lake Inn, another big hotel.
Yes, I remember Swan Lake.
Swan Lake was really a
yeah.
big place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he always had to deal with older Jewish women who were complaining.
Okay.
God rest my mother, she's in heaven. But I would take her to a restaurant, and she would say, "Don't put me under the fan. Shh, get my sweater. Don't put me near the bathroom."
Yeah.
It took 4 tables to get her to one that was good. So Henny Youngman had to deal with all of this shtick. So some woman says to him, "Oh, the food here is terrible, and such small portions."
I remember.
Right? This
What?
is.
Yeah.
Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're complaining the food's terrible. But she says, "And how come there's so
yeah.
little food?"
That's great.
My grandfather loved Henny.
And then there was another
that's
one.
good.
There's another one that's really, they're popular. Again, at the Swan Lake Inn, he tells the woman, the food here is fit for a king. Here, king. Here, king.
My grandfather loved that
No,
joke.
those two really are.
Yes.
Very, very, very popular.
He would say it to his daughter, my mother, and she was not pleased with that joke.
Oh, yeah. Just a bit.
And other people complained about the size of the room. They said it was the size of a 3-cent postage stamp. Another one says, "This room is so small that the mice, they're hunchbacked." And then the best one, and I pick up a key when I do it, is, "You should see my room. I put the key in the door and it breaks the window." And then, so when I complain, they give me a room without a window. So this is their shtick.
Yes.
Right, yeah. And I mean, it's legendary.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
it's-
say so.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's carried, for sure.
Yeah.
And the waiters were college kids.
Yeah.
They had to make enough money in 2 months to pay their college tuition. So they would do anything to make you happy. So you're down at breakfast at your table, and you say, "I'll have some cold cereal with skim milk, and I'll have a little grapefruit." He says, "Good, listen," he says, "I got a stash over here. I got lox, I got whitefish, let me bring it." He brings out everything you could possibly want on that table, just to please you, so that he gets this good tip.
Yeah.
And the dinners, I have a menu from one of the hotels. This is from Grossinger's.
Oh, okay.
I have an actual menu. And if you look down at the dinner part, this is the choice: club steak, calf's liver, spring chicken, braised beef, capon, young fowl with matzo ball. That's just for dinner.
Yum.
But I remember
Yeah.
even the Concord, you sat at the same table
Yeah.
the whole
That's
time
right.
you went,
Yeah.
and you had the breakfast, you had the lunch, and the
and
dinner.
the portions were large.
Whatever you
Yeah,
wanted.
really.
If it wasn't on the menu, they had it in their freezer.
Yeah.
All you had to do was ask.
Yes.
Yeah.
Food was very important
It
to
was.
the people in the Catskills. So they eat their breakfast, let's say from 9 to 9:45. At 12 o'clock, the dining room is opening. They're on a line waiting to get in. 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So,
It was all based around food.
I mean,
Now that I think about
no,
it.
it's true. It's true.
I mean, we would go ice skating in the morning, go to lunch.
So that's just so we stayed it was 97, and it was 2 years, I think 1 or 2 years before the Pines closed.
okay.
And my grandparents decided they were going to get remarried. They brought the entire family, and they have 10 grandchildren. And so there were a lot of people that they brought to the Pines. My uncle, who's a Reformed rabbi, remarried them.
Nice, lovely.
But I'm remembering that whole week, and really everything revolved around food.
It
You know,
really
does.
even at the end of the heyday, everything would
Absolutely.
clear out when the dining rooms opened.
And the dining rooms could seat
Oh, they were huge. I remember that.
Was it 1,000?
It just felt like it just
Yeah.
felt like it was table after table after table.
It was enormous.
Yeah.
Enormous.
But there was an ice skating rink downstairs.
Yes. So we would go ice skating inside, swim inside. You didn't have to go anywhere.
Because that was in summer.
Yes.
As opposed to my snowmobile. That
Yes.
was that. Yeah, but every day we went ice skating.
And they had, I don't know if you know the term, a tumler.
I've heard of it.
Tummler, a tumler.
You'll need to remind me of my Yiddish.
A tumbler is a noisemaker.
Okay.
He is hired, mostly men. He is hired
okay.
to make you happy. So if it's raining out today and you're paying all this
okay.
money to come to the hotel, he's going to do anything he can to make you laugh. He'll jump in the pool, pretend he's drowning. That's a tumbler, a noisemaker.
Oh wow. Okay. Is that a Yiddish term?
Yes.
It is. Okay, I thought
Tumble,
so.
noise.
Oh,
Look
okay.
at, the tumble is killing me. So the tumble is the one that makes the noise.
Right.
Tumbler.
Okay.
Now, was that a college student or was that somebody like? No.
It didn't have to be. No, it could
could
be a comedian who's not already on the stage. He's climbing
Making
up the
some
ladder.
extra.
So
He's
it's
climbing the
almost like the court jester.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Of course.
The court jester of the Catskills.
Yes.
Cool.
Fivish Finkel, do you know that name?
Yeah, that sounds very familiar.
He was on Fences, the TV show Fences.
Okay.
It didn't last long. It's too bad. He also played Fiddler on the Roof for years.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Fivish
Yes,
Finkel.
now I remember that.
And he would go to the Concord and the Nevele in season, and he went to Florida the other season. And he also had a great sense of humor. So he's giving a show, and a woman in the first row, a man in the first row is sound asleep, and he's snoring. All right, row one. So Fivish Finkel turns to the woman and says to him, "Is that your husband?" "Yes." "Well, do you hear him snoring?" "Of course." "So what do you want me to do?" "Wake him up." And she says, "You put him to sleep, you wake him up." This is his sense of humor.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us about this. What other kinds of things do you lecture about?
I have about 25 topics. The most popular is Judge Judy.
Oh.
We were just talking about Judge Judy before you
were?
got down.
It's a wonderful talk. I do Billy Crystal.
We could always have you back for these things.
I do Tales from the Front Stoop.
Okay.
Everybody in South Florida, where I go for the winter, had a stoop because they all lived in apartment houses in Brooklyn and the Bronx. Tales from the Front Stoop. And my favorite is the Bintel Brief.
Bintel Brief.
Oh, if you don't know what it is, you don't know what you're missing.
Please give us a.
You probably have a copy of the book in the library.
Okay.
The Bintel Brief was a column in the forward, or the forwards, however
Okay.
you want to say it, for 60 years. So they had an editor, Abe Kahn. So all the new immigrants that came into New York City, they had a lot of problems. So they would write to Abe Kahn at the forward, and they would describe their problems. And he would answer them the way Ann Landers did.
Dear Abby,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Dear Abby.
Yeah.
Same thing, but the big difference is that these were all Jewish immigrants.
Right.
So he would post the letters in the paper.
I kind of want to read them.
People would cut it out, put it on the icebox.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
So now there are books with a compilation of all those letters. It's called the Bintel Brief.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sure
wanna
they
read
have
Yeah.
it here.
Sure they do. We
Yeah,
have a
that's
lot
sure.
of stuff.
And I mean, it's fun.
And it's broken down year by year so you can see how the problems changed.
right. Yeah.
It's my favorite talk.
But that's really cool because that's like
It's like a perfect history lesson.
It really is. I mean,
If you want to see what the immigrants went through when they came to this country, the letters
That's original
indication.
source material.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, right there.
They're taken right from the paper.
Yeah.
They're the actual letters and the answers.
Yeah.
Now, what I do in the second half of that talk is, what kinds of letters would we write today?
Be a lot different.
Well,
Yeah.
they're total.
Right.
Just an example of one, and then we'll call it a day. A woman writes a letter. She says, "I've been invited to a BARK mitzvah." You ever hear of it?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
when people bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah their dogs.
Yeah, no, the dog
But-
turns 13.
Right.
Yes.
So they have a bark mitzvah.
I have
for,
a book upstairs, Yiddish for Dog and Cat Lovers, and in there
That's
is a
awesome.
picture of a dog at the bark mitzvah.
I've heard.
Does he have a little towel?
They have a talus,
They have a
they have a
yarmulke.
cake, they have a yarmulke. There's thousands of websites on bark mitzvahs to buy merchandise
Oh.
and invitations.
I did
and,
not know that.
Wow.
All over the country, people are making bark mitzvahs. So this letter,
Okay.
the woman writes a letter, "I've been invited to a bark mitzvah. I think it's a shanda, terrible thing. I'm not going. How can I tell my friend that I don't believe in what she's doing?" So this is a letter from today.
Yeah, that would be today.
Yeah,
that's definitely
Alright.
not.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's a wonderful book and my favorite talk.
Oh, that sounds really cool.
It does.
We're gonna have to post a picture of it on our website when this goes up.
Yes.
Because that is incredibly interesting.
It is.
Well, thank you so
It's
much
a pleasure.
for coming to talk to us.
Yes.
And our guests are going to be treated to the full lecture.
Absolutely.
And please come back, Marjorie. Please come back
I'd
and
love
talk to us again sometime about
Thank you.
anything, really. I mean, Judge Judy. I think Lisa's already.
Oh, this is Judge Judy's a wonderful talk.
Lisa's already staked her claim on it. I can
Oh,
tell. So okay. So
Thank
this.
you so much.
Oh no, thank you. So this is
Lisa.
and Jessica sitting with.
Marge Wolfe.
And we are going to close
Close
this
this
chapter
chapter
of Turn the Page.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.